Yeah, that was something. So Coach AB won't be joining me tonight. He has a child that is screaming, and so it will just be me sharing my thoughts tonight. And I thought that I would get this out. Sorry that it's a little bit late. I was at the game, and then had to walk home and drive home in the traffic. So a few thoughts that stand out initially. Might be Florida State's worst loss of all time. And there is any number of things that you can blame for it. So the hardest thing about this is that I can name 100 things, and there's still probably going to be several things that you guys think of at home that frustrated you. That was one of the big reasons that we lost, and I'm going to miss them. Instead, I'm going to focus on the easy things, which is me just listing off things that I think that Florida State did wrong, and where they go from here. So this coaching staff looked like a genius up until pretty much 3 hours ago. In my opinion, the recruiting trail is going. They played well against Notre Dame, who didn't have a good week either. Even for a lot of this game, I was kind of giving them excuses like, it's a short week, whatever. They're just not in it. This is a typical downer game. They're focusing on Wake Forest of all teams, but to be honest, Wake Forest is probably one of the better teams on your schedule as of this second. And then I watched whatever happened in the fourth quarter happen. My initial thoughts throughout most of the game was that the offense was letting the defense down, right? So the offense had nothing going for it. I think a lot of that, if I'm going to be totally honest, has to do with the wide receiver core might be one of the worst wide receiver groups in football right now. If you search all of Division I football, every team that we play seems to have kids that can catch balls consistently and get some sort of separation on routes. We haven't had that. I think a key thing that I look at when I look at like kind of the key moment of this game was that fourth down and goal that they went for. And in that moment, the person that we trust to be thrown the jump ball more than anybody is a freshman. That's a big red flag that our wide receiver, and I mean, nothing against Malik McClain. He might be our best wide receiver right now. And I think if you're going to throw that jump ball, which I'm not going to go into whether that was the right call or not, if you're going to throw that jump ball, I think he probably is the guy you go to. But I don't think that... I think that's indicative of just how poor this wide receiver group is. Basically what Jacksonville State did that I saw was they loaded the box, they played man coverage on the edge, and they said, if you're going to move the football, we're going to make it really hard to run, and your wide receivers have to win one-on-one matchups. And over the course of the game, their wide receivers won more one-on-one matchups than our wide receivers did, because that's what we did. We played man coverage pretty much the whole time, and we said, beat us in man. And I think for the most part, they didn't. They had that drive in the first half, and that second half, they had the one big play everybody's going to remember, and it's going to be tied to the program forever. But then they had a drive that was really just a bunch of mistakes by our part, pass interference, targeting. You can agree with those calls or not, but we dared them to beat us one-on-one. They dared us to beat them one-on-one, and they had better wide receivers than we had. And it's sad that it comes down to that. It's sad that at Florida State we can't bring in kids that can win one-on-one matchups, catch the balls that they have to get a touchdown early in the first quarter, a wide open touchdown, right? They didn't drop those. They caught contested passes. We dropped contested passes. I think that there's a lot of frustrating things, and you want to point to one moment. You want to point to if we didn't try to draw them off sides and waste that timeout. Maybe we could have called the timeout and gone to prevent when we needed it. And that's totally true. That wasn't, in hindsight, that wasn't the best call, right? It's a very common call. It's something that you see all the time. But I think we lost the game a lot earlier than that. I don't think that's what lost us the game. I think we lost the game when we were happy going into halftime with a 14-7 lead, when we coasted the whole second half on offense, and even in the first half on offense, our offense just, there was nothing going because Jacksonville State took away the one thing we can do, which is run the football, and they dared us to throw it. And McKenzie Milton can throw all he wants, but if there's no wide receivers getting open, it doesn't matter who's quarterback. It could be Tom Brady. Our wide receivers aren't getting open, and when they do, they drop the ball. I don't want to blame everything on one position group because I don't think that's fair either. I think everybody played a pretty bad game. They should be able to stack the box, and we should be able to run on them. And we kind of did, and that kind of brings me to the next point. I'm a huge Lawrence Toafili fan. I think that I think he's a great running back. I think that he's got a bright future, but he did not have a good night, and they kept going back to him. I don't understand it. I think you gotta feed Corbin. You gotta feed the guys that are being effective. The Jacksonville State was clogging up the running lanes and daring you to be able to kind of squeeze through little gaps. And Toafili just wasn't. He just didn't look good, and I think he got way too much run tonight. I think they relied on that little hitch concept way too much. They saw off man and they were going to that hitch concept. That's what that pick on McKenzie Milton was about. Just being predictable. It seemed like they really didn't prepare much of a game plan for this game on offense, and that's pretty typical. You should be able to call 6 plays total and beat Jacksonville State if you're Florida State. It's hard to be like, why didn't you spend all week prepping for an FCS team? But also, you need to be able to out-execute them on those 6 plays, and they just didn't. There was nothing going. There seemed to be no consistency. And then there's some parts where it's like, okay, that's where I lay blame on this coaching staff, right? There's no consistency. There's no play calling. But I think there's a lot of blame on that. I don't want to be someone that's just throwing blame on kids. But I think that you got to win these matchups, like that final play. Again, the game was lost before the final play. You should not be going down to a final play against Jacksonville State. But that final play, several kids just gave up. Yeah, you can be like, oh, why did we call prevent? I mean, that's a good question, right? Prevent probably, that prevents that from happening theoretically, but the defense they played should theoretically prevent that from happening. You shouldn't. The amount of times Jacksonville State gets a 50-yard play on Florida State, no matter what defense you're in, should be, what, zero times? Like, that shouldn't happen. And there were 2 guys when that ball was caught within 5 yards of the guy. One guy takes a terrible angle. The other guy just gives up. Jarvis Brownlee just gave up. Yeah, I wanted to come in and say that the defense wasn't terrible today, but that last play just makes that impossible to say, right? That was just bad. Yeah, I don't know what to say. There's a million things I'm missing. I wish AB was here. I was watching a lot of coverage stuff. He generally watches a lot of the offensive and defensive line battles. I think in general the defensive line looked okay. Yeah, they looked good. That quarterback made some throws that he probably doesn't make on a normal game, or he probably does, and that's why he went to Clemson originally, right? But you got to you got to win more one-on-one matchups against Jacksonville State than they win against you. You got to want it more than Jacksonville State wants it, right? Like, you got to care enough to let your athleticism win. So that is all to say that I would love to hear y'all's comments below on where you think that we failed. Do you think that this is primarily a coaching problem? And obviously it is. Like, I'm not going to be a coach apologist here. Obviously, this isn't okay, and you have to look at the people leading the group, right? What was Norvell's game plan offensively? Like, he didn't seem to have one, right? Is Jordan Travis playing? Is he not? Who's the quarterback? Why do we have two quarterbacks in there? I thought that was a fun mix-up, but then why abandon it if that's where you want to go with it? Because it didn't score immediately, you're going to just abandon this whole thing? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand where they were going or what. It just felt like they thought this game was going to just be easy. And I'm not used to this level of disorganization out of a Norvell coached team. Even when we were bad last year, it felt like people knew where to be. We were shooting ourselves in the foot less, but offensively, we shot ourselves in the foot almost every drive. I wouldn't be surprised if per play we had as much or more yards than them, but I haven't checked the stats. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. But you can't score when every drive you have a penalty or have a negative play. A negative play kills drives. And so it is what it is. Right now, as all planned, we will probably go into this game a little bit more in depth on Monday morning. Reminder that we are the only FSU videocast, whatever you want to call us, that looks at the film, goes into it. AB's got 20 plus years of coaching, and so we just really want to dive in and kind of take a closer look at what went wrong once all of the emotions settle and once we're able to swallow really what just happened, because I don't think a lot of us really understand, and I personally don't feel the gravity of what just happened quite yet and what that could potentially mean for this program going forward. So I guess we will see, but let me know what you guys think down below, and I'm sorry if I rambled on too long, but this was just a little bit of catharsis on my part, and I hope that it helped you guys cope with this a little bit. So yeah, all that said, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys can sleep after that. So.